Hey, what's happening? Happy Friday to everybody. Good morning. It's Daryl here. It's bright and early. It's 4 a.m. bright and early here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay. Anybody, if you've watched my channel before, you probably have seen me use empathy, especially empathy. Almost every time I make a video, I'm using empathy or analogies, but empathy in particular. And I use empathy most of the time with people I don't understand, people I don't agree with, adversaries, whatever you want to call them, to better understand their position, to better understand their emotions, what's motivating them, so that I could get a better feel to, you can't argue, you can't debate with somebody if you don't know what their fears are, what's motivating this person. All right, so I want to give you guys an analogy today. And I thought long and hard on this analogy. I thought different scenarios, different relationship scenarios, and this is the one I came up with. A lot of you are probably going to figure out pretty quick what I'm talking about. And I'll talk more after I go through it. Say it's present day, present time, 1 week or less to Thanksgiving, okay? We have a friend. You have a friend that, say, you have a buddy, a friend that was married a year ago. He was married. He came home. He found a note, no kids. He found a note on his computer from his wife, listing a few basic reasons. She was leaving him. Her stuff was gone. And that was it. I'm leaving you. I can't. This is why. I can't deal with it. Goodbye. This was on his computer. Okay. So you're your best friends with this guy. So initially, he's like, this can't be right. I've wronged her. Maybe I lied. Maybe I strayed a little bit, but I'm a great guy. There's a love between us. This just couldn't happen. This couldn't be happening. All right. So for the first week, the first couple days, the first couple weeks, your friend here, let's call him Bob. Bob is, he will not even entertain the thought that his wife left him. She must have been kidnapped. She must have been forced. There's no way. There's no way she would leave a great guy like him. Even though he's got it, God knows he's got his faults, right? And he says, because first of all, she would write this, she would never leave a note on a computer. This could be faked. She would leave a note. She's not the kind of person that would leave a note on a computer. She would leave an actual note. Right? So you're friends with this guy and you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. You've been friends for a long time. So you say, yeah, there's got to be a reason Bob feels so strongly about this. Maybe, she probably was kidnapped. He's making sense. Maybe Bob's got something here. So you support your buddy. You listen to him and you go along with it. Maybe you should go to the police. Let's go to the police. Let's investigate this. Okay. Time goes on, a month, 2 months, and you go to the police. You go to the FBI. You go everywhere, and there is no evidence whatsoever. The police won't tell you, but more than likely, your wife's been in another state, already in another relationship. Bob's wife is in another state, in another relationship. Don't know that for sure because she doesn't want her location known. All right, so after a while, this is all Bob talks about. Every time you see him, he refuses. He's not going to move on. He's not going to date anybody else. Not going to, doesn't go to his job, doesn't do anything. Just every time you see him, he's just talking about how she was kidnapped. She would never leave a great guy like me. So after a couple months, there's no evidence. There's no nothing. More or less, there's more evidence that she just left him. She moved on. She's in another relationship. You start to avoid Bob, right? And then it's a year later. It's coming up to Thanksgiving. You're thinking about you're going to invite your friends to your Thanksgiving dinner. Now, this has been going on for a year with Bob. Still, never talks about anything else. He is just obsessed with, my wife was kidnapped. That's all he says every single time you see him. He won't talk about the weather. He won't talk about baseball. He won't talk about boxing. He won't talk about ultimate fighting. He won't talk about cars or fishing. No, all he talks about is there's just no way. She left me. She's been kidnapped. It's a conspiracy. The police are in on it. She must have paid off the police. It's a conspiracy. So eventually, you start thinking, you're pretty sure Bob is crazy. But I guarantee you, there's probably one kind of insecure friend of Bob's that doesn't have nobody else, and and Bob's his only friend, and there's probably one guy that's still just backing Bob no matter what. That's still whispering in Bob's ear, "You're right. You're definitely right, dude. She would never leave you." There's probably one single guy left that has nowhere else to go, and he's still backing Bob. But everybody else has pretty much come to the conclusion that Bob's off his rocker. He just won't admit, due to his arrogant personality, narcissistic personality, that he refuses to believe that his wife would actually leave him, even though everything points to that. So Thanksgiving's coming up, and you're going to invite all your friends. Now, if you invite Bob to Thanksgiving dinner, all he's going to do is ruin the dinner and just ramble on and on about how his wife must have been kidnapped. Because as time goes on, and it's disproven time and time again, Bob just refused to see this and comes up with more and more reasons or evidence as to how she was kidnapped. Even though he goes back to ones that were already disproven and insists that these are lies, because nobody would ever leave a great guy like him. Okay, by now you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Donald Trump. When I mentioned the best buddy, the guy that's still sticking with Trump, they're still the hardcore supporters that just will never. Trump could come on TV, and say, yeah, I admit it. I lost. I know I lost, and admit everything. And they'd say, no, he was forced. He was brainwashed. There's a reason he's saying this. He's trying to fool. He's trying to own the libs. There's always going to be just diehard people that will ride this to infinity. And this is a cult. The reason I bring up Thanksgiving, okay, yesterday's video, I did a video yesterday, and I started to get a feel that overall, even Republicans are just sick and tired. You can't, there's talk of Trump running again in 2024. You cannot govern anything by looking in the past, by constantly talking about the past. The reason you elect somebody is for the future, looking forward. And like I said in yesterday's video, there's absolutely no sign that Trump has any concern about anything else other than his being so, wrong. He was so terribly wronged. And, I can't imagine why that would change if he was elected in 2024. All right, the reason I bring up Thanksgiving, Mike Lindell. Now, he sat down. I mentioned this in yesterday's video. He sat down in a tux. Why, I don't know. But Trump sat down wearing a tux and talked to Lindell. Now, this is a troubling interview. I forgot to mention yesterday, too, that Lindell is off his rocker big time. I'll get more into that in a second. Lindell brought up the idea that they melt down voting machines and make prison bars out of them. And Trump says, yeah, that's a great idea. Think about people like me, people on the left saying, we're looking at the death of democracy here with these votes against, these regulations, these laws against voting rights, making it harder for people to vote under the guise of getting rid of voting fraud, which doesn't even exist in any way, in any large way, shape, or form. All right. So now I'm going to have another video down below, Lindell, on Bannon's show, The War Room. Bannon, a whole nother character. Let's go, Bannon. All right. And Lindell is just full off his rocker in this. And he's saying that it's all coming. It's all coming. That he's got a lot of the red states. If you listen to him, he's pretty much saying he's got almost the whole country, the attorney generals in all the red states, and only a few of the blue states didn't go along with him. He hints around at this, that they joined a lawsuit against the U.S. government to overthrow, to turn back the election. Yeah, he's still on this. And this is all going to happen on November 23rd, Thanksgiving. All right. And I started thinking about this. And people like me have been fed up with this remember when I walked in and I took a knee during that Stop the Steal rally back in November of last year? I was sick of it then. Even Republicans are sick of it now. Now, in yesterday's video, I mentioned this, and then in the last few days, in the last 24 hours, I've been researching it. Chris Christie is writing a book talking about. You see, he is denouncing Trump and saying that the Republican Party basically shouldn't have anything to do with Trump. That Trump is on a road to nowhere with this. Rupert Murdoch, the puppet master of Fox and everything else, has come out recently and said that Trump is just, this has to stop. He's sinking the whole conservative movement with this ridiculous, never-ending nonsense of we're a year later, and this is all he talks about. So I came up with this analogy. The reason I used the computer too is I was trying to get some kind of relationship to voting machines. Oh, and then I want to mention this too. Lindell was asked, well, what about the plastic in the voting machines? And Lindell says, well, we'll make trays for the prisoners. I mean, this scares the hell out of me. That, what Lindell is basically saying, he's not even talking about voter fraud here. He's talking about melting down our democracy and building prisons and locking people up. Yeah, if that's not fascism, I don't know what is. I'll have the links to all this stuff. Chris Christie, Rupert Murdoch, Mike Lindell's off the rails. It doesn't even accurately describe his state of mind. I'll have that all down below. You guys, I'll be back later with another video. You guys have a great Friday.